If you are ready to become who you know you were meant to be, I created The Second Life to give you a full path built from timeless success principles, so you can finally change for real and begin creating more wealth, better health, stronger relationships, inner peace, and a life that truly reflects your potential. Click the first link in the description and become who you were meant to be.
There's a level of power you will never reach alone, no matter how disciplined, focused, or driven you are. You can work harder than everyone around you, think longer, push further, but eventually you will feel it, that invisible ceiling that effort alone cannot break. At first, you won't recognize it. You'll assume you just need more time, more skill, more consistency, so you double down, you isolate more, you rely on yourself even harder. And for a while, it feels like the right move, until progress begins to slow. That's when frustration starts to build. You're still putting in the effort, still showing up, still doing everything you thought was required, but the results don't expand the way they used to. It feels like something is missing, but you can't quite see what it is. Most people respond to that moment the same way. They try to outwork it. They push harder, grind longer, thinking that more effort will break through the barrier. But that approach only takes you so far. Because the limitation isn't your effort, it's your isolation. What if the reason things feel slower, heavier, more difficult than they should, has nothing to do with your ability? What if you've reached a point where progress requires something different, not more effort, but a different kind of leverage? Because there is a principle that changes everything once you understand it. A principle that explains why some people seem to move faster, see opportunities sooner, and create results that feel almost out of proportion to their effort. It's not luck, it's not timing, it's alignment. The right minds coming together with a shared direction. And when that happens, something shifts, ideas sharpen, decisions become clearer. Progress begins to compound instead of stall. Think about the moments when your thinking felt strongest, when your ideas flowed better, when your perspective widened, when solutions came easier. Those moments rarely happened in isolation. They happened when you were exposed to other minds. Because when two or more people connect with purpose, something unusual happens. You don't just combine thoughts, you expand them. One idea leads to another, one insight triggers a new direction, and suddenly you're operating beyond your individual limits. But most people never experience this fully. They surround themselves with what feels comfortable, not what creates growth. They stay in circles where everyone thinks the same, acts the same, and sees the world the same, and that keeps everything contained. Because the people around you don't just influence your environment, they influence your identity. They shape what you believe is possible, what you aim for, what you tolerate. And over time, that influence becomes the framework you operate within. But here's where it gets more important. Not every connection creates power. Some dilute it, some distract it. Some pull you away from your direction without you realizing it. And if you're not intentional, you can be surrounded but still stagnant. There is a specific way to build this kind of alliance. It's not random, it's not based on convenience. It's based on alignment, shared purpose, shared standards, shared direction. And when those elements come together, the effect becomes undeniable. Because once you experience it, your thinking expands beyond what you thought was possible. Your actions become more focused. Your progress begins to accelerate, not because you're doing more, but because you're operating differently. And that's where the real shift happens. You stop relying only on your own perspective. You begin to see things you couldn't see before. You make decisions with more clarity, more confidence, more precision, and everything starts to move faster. So, if you've been feeling like you've hit a ceiling, like your effort isn't producing what it should, like something is holding you back without a clear reason, the answer may not be in doing more on your own. Because the next level of your growth doesn't come from isolation, it comes from connection, from building something with others that you could never create alone. And once you understand how that works, you stop trying to carry everything by yourself. There comes a point in every man's progress where effort alone no longer produces the same return. At first, advancement appears steady. Each action leads to visible improvement. Each attempt yields some form of result. And because of this, the man comes to believe that continued effort will always produce continued progress. Yet there arrives a stage where this pattern changes. The effort remains, the discipline remains, the time invested may even increase. Yet the results begin to slow, not entirely, but enough to be noticed. The man feels it before he understands it. A certain heaviness begins to form, a sense that movement is no longer as direct as it once was. He continues to work, he continues to think, yet something is different. And because he does not yet recognize the cause, he assumes the solution must be found in doing more. This is the beginning of error. For the limitation he is encountering is not in his effort, it is in his isolation. The mind, when left to itself, eventually reaches the boundary of its own experience. It can only draw from what it has seen, what it has learned, and what it has already considered. At first, this is sufficient, but over time the same patterns begin to repeat. The same ideas return in different forms. The same conclusions are reached from slightly altered paths. The man believes he is thinking deeply, yet he is often thinking within the same circle. This circle is not easily seen from within. It feels like movement. It feels like effort, yet it produces diminishing expansion. This is the invisible limit. It does not announce itself. It does not prevent action. It simply reduces the effectiveness of that action. The individual who encounters this limit without understanding it responds in a predictable manner. He increases his effort. He works longer. He pushes harder. He isolates further, believing that greater focus will break through the resistance. For a time, this may produce slight improvement, but soon the same condition returns. The progress does not expand. The effort does not multiply in effect, and frustration begins to appear. This frustration is often misunderstood. The man believes something is wrong with his ability, that he is not skilled enough, not disciplined enough, not capable enough. Yet this is rarely the case. The truth is simpler. He has reached the limit of what his mind can produce alone. History provides many examples of men who encountered this stage. Capable individuals who labored with great intensity, yet remained confined within the boundaries of their own thinking. They were not lacking in effort. They were lacking in expansion. Their thoughts, though active, did not extend beyond what they already knew. Thus, their progress slowed, not because they stopped, but because they could not move beyond themselves. Others will begin to notice this, though they may not describe it in these terms. They will see that the man is working, yet not advancing as before, that he is active, yet not expanding, that he appears occupied, yet not progressing with the same force. They may say he has lost momentum, that he is no longer as effective. Yet what they are observing is not a loss of ability. It is the effect of isolation. The man is attempting to create expansion from within a fixed boundary, and no amount of effort alone can extend that boundary. It must be expanded. This is the realization that few reach, for it requires the man to see that his limitation is not in what he is doing, but in what he is not exposing himself to. He must recognize that thinking alone, no matter how disciplined, eventually becomes confined. That effort without expansion leads to repetition, and repetition without new input leads to stagnation. The difficulty lies in the fact that this condition does not feel like stagnation at first. It feels like effort. It feels like persistence. The man continues. He does not stop. And because he does not stop, he believes he is progressing. Yet progress is not measured by effort alone. It is measured by direction and expansion. Without expansion, effort becomes circular. The same actions, the same thoughts, the same results, repeated, until the man either recognizes the limitation or becomes accustomed to it. Those who become accustomed remain within it. Those who recognize it move beyond it. The recognition itself is powerful. For once the man sees that he has reached the boundary of his own thinking, he becomes open to something new. He no longer assumes that working harder alone will produce greater result. He begins to understand that progress requires more than effort. It requires enlargement of thought. This shift changes everything. He no longer isolates himself in the same manner. He no longer believes that all answers must come from within. He begins to seek expansion, not randomly, but intentionally. Others will observe this change as well. They will notice that the man begins to think differently, that his ideas become more varied, that his decisions carry greater clarity. They may believe he has gained new ability. Yet what he has gained is not new capacity. It is new input. His mind has been expanded beyond its previous limits. And because it has expanded, his actions produce different results. This is the beginning of true advancement, not through increased effort alone, but through increased reach of thought. The man is no longer confined to his own experience. He begins to operate beyond it. This removes the invisible ceiling, the one that effort alone could not break. Thus, the first realization must be accepted clearly, that isolation, though it may appear as strength, becomes limitation. That effort, though necessary, is not sufficient on its own. That thinking, when left within itself, eventually repeats rather than expands. The man who understands this does not abandon effort. He refines it. He directs it. He expands the source from which it draws, and in doing so, he moves beyond what once held him. Let the individual then recognize this stage when it appears. Let him not respond to slowing progress by increasing isolation. Let him not attempt to force expansion from within. Fixed boundaries. Let him seek enlargement. Let him extend his thinking beyond himself, for it is in this extension that progress resumes. And let him affirm with quiet certainty, I do not rely on my own thought alone. I expand beyond myself, and through that expansion, I move beyond every limit I once believed was fixed. When a man has reached the limit of his own thinking and begins to recognize that effort alone no longer produces the same expansion, there comes a quiet awakening. It does not arrive as sudden revelation, but as a gradual realization that something outside of himself is required, not more labor, but a broader source from which thought may draw. At first, this realization may feel uncertain, for the man has grown accustomed to relying upon himself. He has taken pride in his independence. He has believed that strength lies in standing alone, and in many respects, this belief has served him well. Yet now he begins to see its boundary. He recognizes that while effort may be increased, perspective cannot be expanded indefinitely in isolation. And with this recognition, he becomes open. This openness is the beginning of shared thought. The man no longer assumes that all ideas must originate within him. He begins to consider that thought may be strengthened through contact, that when one mind engages with another, something occurs that does not happen when either operates alone. This is not merely the exchange of ideas, it is the expansion of them. For when a thought is expressed, it is no longer fixed in its original form. It is examined, it is refined, it is extended. Another mind adds to it, questions it, or sees within it something the first did not perceive. And through this interaction, the thought grows beyond what it was. This is the nature of shared thinking. It multiplies. It does not remain as it was. The man who experiences this for the first time begins to notice a change. Ideas come more readily. Solutions appear with greater clarity. Directions that once seemed uncertain begin to take form, not because he has become more capable alone, but because his thinking is no longer confined. Others will observe this as well. They will notice that he speaks with greater insight, that his decisions carry more weight, that he seems to see beyond what is immediately apparent. They may believe that he has developed new ability, yet what has occurred is not the creation of new power, but the combination of existing power. The man has connected his thinking with others, and in that connection, his reach has extended. It must be understood that this effect does not arise from mere agreement. It is not produced by surrounding oneself with those who think in the same manner. Such association creates comfort, but not expansion. The true awakening comes when thought is met with variation, when another mind brings a different view, when ideas are not simply confirmed, but developed. This interaction produces movement. The mind is no longer repeating, it is creating. Consider the individual who has struggled with a problem alone. He has examined it from every angle he knows. He has considered all that his experience allows, yet he cannot move beyond a certain point. Then, in conversation with another, a single remark shifts his entire understanding. Not because the remark was complex, but because it introduced something he could not produce alone. This is the power of shared thought. It reveals what was hidden. It extends what was limited. It accelerates what was slow. Many of the great advancements in history have arisen in this manner, not through isolated thinking alone, but through interaction. Men of vision did not operate entirely within themselves. They engaged with others. They exchanged ideas. They refined their direction through contact. This does not diminish individual effort. It enhances it. For effort applied with expanded thought produces greater result. The man who remains isolated must rely solely on his own conclusions. The man who engages with others gains access to many. This is the difference, not in how hard he works, but in what his work is guided by. Others will begin to see this difference clearly. They will notice that the man who engages with strong minds advances more rapidly, that his decisions appear more precise, that his actions produce greater effect. They may attribute this to experience, to talent, or to circumstance, yet the cause is simpler. He is no longer thinking alone. This awakening must be accepted fully. For many reach this point, yet resist it. They hold to the belief that independence requires isolation, that strength is proven by self-reliance alone, and in doing so, they remain confined. The man who advances understands that self-reliance does not exclude association. It requires it. He does not lose his direction by engaging with others. He strengthens it. He does not become dependent. He becomes expanded. It must also be recognized that this engagement must be intentional. Not every association produces growth. Not every exchange strengthens thought. The man must seek those who bring clarity, not confusion. Direction, not distraction. Expansion, not limitation. This selection determines the quality of the effect, for shared thought is powerful, but its direction depends on those involved. Thus, the awakening is not complete until it is guided. The man must choose wisely. He must engage with purpose. He must seek not agreement, but advancement. And in doing so, he begins to operate differently. He no longer attempts to solve everything alone. He no longer confines his thinking within himself. He expands, and in that expansion, his progress resumes. Let the individual then accept this principle. Let him not remain within the boundary he has already reached. Let him extend beyond it. Let him allow his thoughts to be shaped, refined, and expanded through contact with others. For it is in this contact that new direction is formed, and let him affirm, with steady conviction, my thinking grows through association. I expand beyond my own limits, and through shared thought, I create greater result. When a man has awakened to the power of shared thought, he stands at the threshold of a principle far greater than simple association. For there is a form of alliance that does more than exchange ideas. It creates a new force entirely. This is what I have termed the master mind. It is not merely the gathering of individuals, but the union of minds in such harmony and purpose that a third influence is formed, one that exceeds the ability of any single member. This principle is often misunderstood. Many believe that any group of men working together constitutes such a force. Yet this is not so. Proximity alone does not create power. Conversation alone does not produce expansion. There must be alignment, definite purpose shared among those involved, and a spirit of harmony that allows thought to move freely without resistance. When these conditions are present, something unusual occurs. Ideas do not remain separate. They combine, they extend, they evolve beyond their original form. One man offers a thought, another refines it. A third sees within it a direction neither of the first had perceived. And from this process emerges something greater than what any could have produced alone. This is not imagination, it is observable. Those who have experienced such alliances know that there are moments when thought flows with unusual clarity, when solutions appear more rapidly than expected, when direction seems to form without strain. This is the effect of combined minds operating in harmony. Andrew Carnegie understood this principle well. Though he possessed great ability, he did not rely upon himself alone. He surrounded himself with men of intelligence, of discipline, and of direction. Together, they formed an alliance that multiplied their effectiveness. Carnegie did not attempt to be the source of all thought. He became the center through which thought was combined. This is the nature of the mastermind. It is not about control. It is about coordination. Each individual brings his strength. Each contributes his perspective. And together, they produce something none could achieve in isolation. Others will observe this effect, though they may not understand its origin. They will see that those within such alliances move with greater speed, that their decisions carry more certainty, that their actions produce results that appear disproportionate to their individual effort. They may attribute this to talent, to advantage, to circumstance. Yet the true cause lies in the union of minds. It must be clearly understood that harmony is essential. Without it, the force is weakened. If conflict arises, if egos compete, if direction is divided, the power of the alliance diminishes. Thought no longer flows freely. It becomes restricted, defensive, fragmented. The mastermind cannot exist in such condition, for it requires unity, not sameness of thought, but alignment of purpose. The men involved may differ in perspective. They may approach problems from different angles, yet they are united in direction. They are moving toward the same aim, and this unity allows their differences to strengthen the whole, rather than divide it. The individual who becomes part of such an alliance begins to experience change quickly. His thinking becomes sharper. His awareness expands. He begins to see possibilities that were not visible before, not because they did not exist, but because he did not have access to the perspective required to perceive them. Now he does. And because he does, his actions change. He moves with greater clarity. He decides with greater confidence. He proceeds with greater precision. Others begin to notice this. They will see that he no longer hesitates in the same manner, that he does not struggle to find direction, that he appears to operate at a higher level. They may say that he has become more capable, yet what has changed is not his ability alone. It is the source from which his thinking is drawn. He is no longer limited to himself. It must also be recognized that the master mind is not formed by accident. It is built. The man must seek it. He must be intentional in forming it. He must align himself with those who are moving in the same direction, who uphold similar standards, who contribute rather than consume. For the alliance is only as strong as those within it. If one weakens it, all are affected. If one strengthens it, all benefit. Thus, selection becomes critical. The man must not choose based on convenience, nor on familiarity, but on alignment. He must ask, do these minds elevate mine? Do they expand my thinking? Do they strengthen my direction? If they do, the alliance will grow. If they do not, it will weaken. This is not a matter of judgment. It is a matter of function. The mastermind exists for advancement, and anything that does not support that advancement must be recognized. As the alliance is maintained, something further develops. Trust. Each individual begins to rely upon the others, not in dependence, but in confidence. They know that thought will be met with refinement, that ideas will be strengthened, that direction will be clarified. This trust allows openness, and openness allows expansion. Thus, the alliance deepens. It becomes more than occasional interaction. It becomes a source of strength, a place where thought is sharpened, where direction is reinforced, where progress is accelerated. The man who becomes part of such a force no longer operates at the same level as before. He has moved beyond individual limitation. He has entered into collective strength, and in that strength, his results reflect the change. He does not merely work harder, he works with greater leverage. He does not merely think more, he thinks with greater reach. This is the nature of the mastermind. It is not visible in form, yet it is unmistakable in effect. It multiplies effort, it expands thought, it accelerates progress, and it does so through unity. Thus, the man who would advance must not overlook this principle. He must not attempt to achieve alone what requires more than one mind. He must seek alignment. He must form alliance. He must operate within harmony. For in doing so, he gains access to a force that cannot be created in isolation. And let him affirm, with firm conviction, I unite my mind with others in purpose and harmony. Together, we create a force greater than any one of us. And through that force, I advance beyond all former limits. When a man has come to understand the power of united thought, he must then confront a matter of equal importance: selection. For not every association produces strength. Not every gathering of minds creates advancement. There are alliances that elevate, and there are those that diminish. And the difference between them lies not in number, but in alignment. Most men choose their associations without intention. They remain where they are comfortable. They gather with those who are familiar. They surround themselves with individuals who think in similar patterns, speak in similar ways, and accept similar limitations. This creates ease, but it does not create expansion. The man feels supported, yet he is not advanced. His ideas are confirmed, but not extended. His direction is accepted, but not refined, and in this condition, he remains where he is. This is the danger of misalignment. It does not oppose progress openly, it delays it quietly. The man does not feel that he is being held back. He feels that he belongs. Yet belonging without growth becomes confinement. It must be understood that association shapes thought, thought shapes belief, and belief governs action. Thus, the individuals with whom a man aligns himself influence far more than his environment. They influence his limits. If he surrounds himself with those who accept little, he begins to accept little. If he aligns with those who hesitate, he begins to hesitate. If he remains among those who do not advance, he will find it difficult to advance beyond them. This influence is gradual, subtle, yet certain. Consider the individual who has ambition, who seeks to move forward, who desires to expand. If he remains within a circle that does not share that direction, he will feel resistance, not always openly expressed, but present. His ideas may not be challenged, but they will not be strengthened. His direction may not be opposed, but it will not be supported. Over time, this weakens him, not through force, but through absence. Absence of challenge, absence of expansion, absence of higher standard. Now consider another man who aligns himself with those who are moving forward. Individuals who think with clarity, who act with purpose, who maintain direction. In such company, he cannot remain as he was. His thinking is challenged, his standards are raised, his direction is refined. This produces growth, not always comfortable, but always effective. Others will observe this difference. They will see that the man who aligns with strong minds begins to change, that his thinking becomes sharper, that his actions become more deliberate, that his results begin to expand. They may say he has improved, yet what has changed is his association. He has placed himself within an environment that requires growth, and in that requirement, he rises. It must also be recognized that not all influence is beneficial. Some associations dilute direction. They introduce distraction. They shift focus away from purpose. The man may not notice this at once. 4. The influence does not appear harmful. It appears casual, harmless, even enjoyable. Yet over time, it alters his course. His attention is divided. His effort is weakened. His direction becomes less certain. This is dilution. It does not stop progress. It slows it. And slowed progress, sustained over time, becomes stagnation. Thus, the man must become deliberate in his selection. He must ask not who is familiar, but who is aligned. Not who is agreeable, but who is elevating. Not who is convenient, but who is strengthening. This requires judgment. And at times, it requires separation. For not all associations can be maintained if advancement is to be achieved. This is not a matter of rejection. It is a matter of direction. The man must choose where he will grow, and growth requires proper environment. It must also be understood that alignment is not sameness. The strongest alliances are not formed by identical minds. They are formed by complementary ones. Different perspectives, different strengths, different approaches, all united by a common aim. This creates expansion, for each mind contributes something unique. And in that contribution, the whole is strengthened. The man must therefore seek not duplication, but elevation. Those who bring clarity where he lacks it. Those who see what he does not. Those who challenge what he assumes. This interaction produces growth. Others will begin to notice that the man no longer thinks in narrow ways, that he considers more, that he decides with greater depth. They may believe he has changed in ability, yet what has changed is his exposure. He is no longer confined to one way of thinking. He has expanded through alignment. Thus, the selection of minds becomes one of the most important decisions a man makes, for it determines the quality of his thinking, and the quality of his thinking determines the direction of his life. If he chooses poorly, he limits himself. If he chooses wisely, he expands beyond what he could achieve alone. This choice must not be left to chance. It must be made with intention, with awareness, with clarity of purpose. For the master mind, as powerful as it is, depends entirely upon those within it. It cannot elevate a man if those around him do not elevate him. It cannot expand his thinking if those around him do not expand their own. Thus, alignment is essential. Without it, the alliance weakens. With it, the alliance becomes a force. The man who understands this no longer surrounds himself without thought. He chooses, he aligns, he places himself where growth is required, and in doing so, he creates the condition for advancement. Let the individual then examine those with whom he associates. Let him determine whether they strengthen his direction or weaken it. Let him choose alignment over comfort, growth over familiarity. For it is in this choice that his expansion is determined. And let him affirm, with firm conviction, I align myself with those who elevate my thinking and strengthen my purpose. I do not remain where I am comfortable. I place myself where I must grow. When a man has learned to select his associations with care, he must then proceed to something far more deliberate, the formation of a true alliance. For it is not enough to simply surround oneself with capable individuals. The power of the mastermind does not arise from presence alone, but from organized, purposeful connection. Without this, even the strongest minds remain separate, and their strength is never combined. A true alliance is not accidental. It is formed, it is shaped, it is maintained. Most men never experience its full power because they do not go beyond casual association. They meet, they speak, they exchange ideas in passing, yet there is no structure, no definite aim binding them, no consistency in their interaction, and without these, the force never develops. The man who understands this approaches alliance differently. He does not seek occasional contact. He establishes connection, regular, intentional, directed, for he knows that strength is not created in a single meeting, but through repeated interaction. Thought must be brought together again and again. Ideas must be examined, refined, and extended over time. It is through this repetition that clarity forms and direction strengthens. This requires commitment. Each individual within the alliance must contribute, not merely attend, not merely listen, but bring something of value, experience, insight, perspective. Without contribution, the alliance weakens. It becomes uneven, and what is uneven cannot produce full strength. Consider the example of men who met regularly with purpose. They did not gather for idle conversation. They came with direction. Each brought his thought. Each examined the thought of the other. Each left with greater clarity than he possessed upon arrival. This is the function of the alliance, to refine, to strengthen, to advance. Others will begin to observe the effect of such an arrangement. They will see that those involved move with unusual precision, that their decisions are not made in haste, yet are not delayed, that their actions appear deliberate, as though guided by something beyond individual consideration. They may say that these men are fortunate, that they possess uncommon insight, yet what they are witnessing is not chance, it is structure. The individuals are not relying upon isolated thought. They are building upon shared refinement. It must also be understood that trust is essential. Without it, thought cannot move freely. If one holds back, the alliance weakens. If one competes rather than contributes, the force is divided. Thus, there must be mutual respect, a recognition that each individual is not in opposition, but in cooperation, not seeking to prove superiority, but to produce advancement. This creates openness, and openness allows ideas to be examined without resistance. In such an environment, thinking becomes sharper, faster, more effective. The man no longer hesitates to express a thought. He no longer guards his ideas. He presents them. And in presenting them, he allows them to be improved. This is where growth occurs, not in isolation, but in exposure. It must also be recognized that the alliance must be maintained with consistency. Irregular contact weakens its consistence. Effect. Long intervals between interaction cause loss of momentum. The connection must be sustained, not occasionally, but regularly. This continuity produces accumulation. Each meeting builds upon the last. Each exchange deepens understanding. Each discussion strengthens direction. Over time, this produces a noticeable change. The individuals begin to operate as though guided by a common intelligence. Their thinking aligns. Their actions support one another. Their progress accelerates, not because they are doing more individually, but because they are working together effectively. Others will begin to rely upon such individuals. They will see that they do not act without consideration, that they do not proceed without clarity, that their results are consistent. This creates trust, and trust brings opportunity. For men place responsibility upon those who demonstrate reliability. Thus, the alliance produces more than thought. It produces result. It is also important that the alliance remain directed. Without a clear aim, it will drift. Conversation will lose focus. Effort will become scattered. The individuals may still gather, yet no progress will be made. Thus, purpose must remain central. Each interaction must serve it. Each discussion must support it. This does not require rigidity, but it requires awareness. The man must ensure that the alliance is not merely maintained, but directed. This direction preserves its strength. It prevents dilution. It ensures that each interaction produces advancement. Over time, the alliance becomes something more than a meeting. It becomes a source, a place where thought is sharpened, where direction is reinforced, where progress is sustained. The man begins to rely upon it, not in dependence, but in recognition. He knows that within it, his thinking is strengthened, that his direction is clarified, that his advancement is supported. This is the power of a true alliance. It does not replace individual effort. It multiplies it. The man still acts, still works, still proceeds. But his actions are now guided by refined thought. His effort is no longer scattered. It is directed, and directed effort produces greater result. Thus, the formation of such an alliance must be undertaken with care. It must be built with intention, maintained with consistency, and directed with purpose. For in doing so, the man creates a source of strength that cannot be produced alone, and through this source, his progress accelerates. Let the individual then move beyond casual association. Let him form true alliance. Let him engage with purpose. Let him contribute with intention. For it is in this formation that the master, mind, becomes active. And let him affirm with steady conviction, I form alliances of purpose and strength through shared direction and consistent connection. I multiply my thinking and accelerate my progress. When a man has formed a true alliance, when minds are united with purpose, aligned in direction, and maintained through consistent interaction, there begins to appear a result that cannot be mistaken. His progress no longer moves at the same pace. What once required time now occurs with greater speed. What once felt uncertain now becomes clear. This is the stage where thought and action begin to accelerate. This acceleration is not accidental. It is the natural result of combined intelligence. The man is no longer limited to a single line of reasoning. He no longer approaches decisions from one perspective alone. Each idea is examined, refined, and strengthened before it is acted upon. And because of this, action becomes more precise. He does not hesitate as before. He does not move in uncertainty. He proceeds with direction already formed. This removes delay, for hesitation is often the result of incomplete thinking. When thought is expanded, hesitation diminishes. And when hesitation diminishes, action becomes immediate. This is where speed is gained, not through haste, but through clarity. Consider the individual who works alone. He must think, decide, reconsider, and often correct his course after acting. His progress, though steady, is interrupted by uncertainty. He moves forward, but with pauses, with adjustments, with reconsideration. Now consider the man within a strong alliance. His thinking has already been refined. His direction has already been examined. His decisions are not formed in isolation, but strengthened before action. Thus, when he acts, he moves with certainty. And because he moves with certainty, he moves faster. This is the difference, not in effort, but in preparation. Others will begin to observe this change clearly. They will notice that the man appears decisive, that he does not delay unnecessarily, that he moves from thought to action with unusual ease. They may believe he is naturally confident, that he possesses quick judgment. Yet what they are witnessing is not speed of thought alone. It is supported thought. The man is not relying on himself alone. He is supported by the strength of aligned minds. This support removes doubt, and in removing doubt, it increases movement. It must also be understood that ideas themselves are accelerated. When a thought is held by one mind, it develops at a certain pace. When it is shared among several, it develops more rapidly. Each perspective adds to it. Each contribution refines it. Each exchange strengthens it. What might take days alone may take minutes in alliance. This is the multiplication of thought, and it produces results that appear disproportionate to effort. The man begins to see solutions sooner. He recognizes opportunities more quickly. He avoids errors that he would have made alone. Thus, his progress not only accelerates, it becomes more efficient. Less wasted motion, less unnecessary correction, more direct advancement. This efficiency compounds. Each correct decision builds upon the last. Each clear action produces stronger result, and over time, the difference becomes significant. The man moves further, faster, with less resistance. Others will interpret this as advantage. They will say he has found a better path, that he has gained access to something uncommon. And in truth, he has. He has gained access to combined intelligence. It must also be recognized that this acceleration requires continued engagement. The alliance must remain active. The connection must be maintained. For when interaction weakens, the effect diminishes. The man begins to return to isolated thinking, and with that, the pace slows. Thus, continuity is essential. The man must remain connected. He must continue to engage. He must sustain the flow of thought between minds. This maintains the acceleration. This preserves the advantage. There is also a change in confidence at this stage, not the kind that is displayed outwardly, but a quiet assurance. The man knows that his thinking has been examined, that his direction has been refined, that his decisions are supported. This removes internal conflict. He no longer questions himself in the same manner. He proceeds, and in proceeding, his actions carry greater force. Others sense this. They recognize that he is not uncertain, that he does not hesitate, that he moves with assurance. This creates influence. For men follow those who act with clarity. Thus, acceleration extends beyond the individual. It affects those around him. His pace influences theirs. His clarity reduces their confusion. His direction provides structure. In this way, the alliance produces not only individual advancement, but collective movement. It becomes a source of momentum, and momentum, once established, carries forward with increasing strength. The man is no longer pushing against resistance in the same way. He is moving with force. This is the stage where effort begins to feel lighter, not because less is required, but because it is applied more effectively. The man is no longer expending energy in uncertainty. He is directing it with precision, and precision reduces waste. Thus, the same effort produces greater result. This is the advantage of acceleration. It is not gained through intensity alone. It is gained through alignment, through shared thought, through sustained connection. The man who reaches this stage no longer experiences progress as slow and uncertain. He experiences it as steady and increasing. He moves forward without the same struggle. He advances without the same delay. And in this advancement, his results reflect the difference. Let the individual then understand this stage clearly. Let him not withdraw from the alliance once it is formed. Let him maintain connection. Let him continue engagement. For it is through this continuity that acceleration is sustained. And let him affirm, with firm certainty, through aligned minds, my thinking is strengthened and my actions are accelerated. I move with clarity, and through that clarity, I advance with speed and precision. There comes a stage in the application of this principle where the man no longer feels that he is advancing alone. His effort is still his own. His decisions are still his responsibility. Yet the force behind them has changed. He is no longer operating as an isolated unit. He has become part of something greater than himself. This is the final realization of the master mind. At first, the man sought expansion. Then he engaged with others. Then he formed alliance. Then he experienced acceleration. Now, he experiences integration. His thinking is no longer separate from the collective strength he has joined. Ideas come to him not as isolated conclusions, but as part of a larger flow. His direction is not formed in fragments. It is supported, refined, and strengthened continuously. He no longer feels the same strain of uncertainty. He no longer faces decisions alone. He is supported by alignment. And in that alignment, he gains a form of leverage that cannot be produced individually. This changes the nature of his effort. He still acts, he still works, he still moves forward, but his actions carry more weight. His decisions produce greater effect, for they are not the product of one mind alone. They are the result of combined intelligence. Others will begin to observe this clearly. They will see that he operates with unusual clarity, that his actions seem well-timed, that his progress appears steady, even when conditions are uncertain. They may say he has become influential, that he carries authority, yet what they are witnessing is not position, it is alignment expressed through action. The man has become part of a force that extends beyond him, and because of this, his results extend beyond what he could achieve alone. It must also be understood that this stage introduces a new responsibility. The man must preserve the harmony of the alliance, for the strength he now draws from depends upon it. If alignment weakens, the force weakens. If purpose becomes divided, direction becomes unclear. Thus, he must not only benefit from the alliance, he must contribute to its stability. He must maintain clarity. He must uphold standard. He must act in a manner that strengthens the whole, for what he receives is directly connected to what he sustains. This is not dependence, it is participation. The man is not relying upon others to act for him. He is acting within a system that multiplies his action, and in doing so, he becomes both contributor and beneficiary. Over time, this produces a transformation in how he sees himself. He no longer thinks in terms of limitation. He no longer measures his capacity by what he alone can do. He begins to think in terms of expansion, of coordination, of multiplied effort. This shift removes constraint, for the man is no longer bound by individual reach. He operates through collective strength. Others will sense this change. They will recognize that he does not approach problems in isolation, that he considers more, that he acts with greater awareness. They may feel that he sees further, and in a sense, he does. For he is not seeing from one position. He is seeing through many. This produces advantage, not through competition, but through connection. The man is no longer attempting to overcome everything alone. He is aligned with a force that allows him to move beyond obstacles more effectively. Thus, his progress becomes more certain, more stable, more sustained. It must also be recognized that this condition is not temporary. It can be maintained. As long as the alliance remains active, as long as the purpose remains clear, as long as harmony is preserved, the mastermind becomes a permanent source of expansion. The man no longer returns to limitation. He continues to grow, to refine, to advance through connection. This is why the greatest achievements are rarely the work of one man alone. They are the result of coordinated effort, of aligned minds, of shared direction. Those who appear to stand alone are often supported by unseen alliances, by individuals whose influence is not always visible, yet whose contribution is essential. Thus, the man who seeks to advance must not isolate himself at the highest level. He must remain connected. He must continue to engage. He must sustain the force that has elevated him, for it is through this sustained connection that growth continues. And through continued growth, his results expand. He no longer seeks success as something separate from himself. He becomes part of the process through which it is created. He no longer asks how far he can go alone. He recognizes that alone is no longer his condition. He has moved beyond it, and in doing so, he has entered a level of advancement that few reach, not because it is hidden, but because it is often neglected. Let the individual then